Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this narration of the web novel Humans Don't Make Good Familiars, taken from Reddit with the author's approval. If you're new to the series, there is a link in the description to the playlist. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Max, okay, let's do this, I told her. I stood up and I leaned nestily against the wall. I'd been carrying it this whole time. On the way to the academy, Suma mentioned that I could send it away as well as bring it back, but I hadn't tried that yet. As I wondered where it would go, Suma handed me a stone with spirals of blue and streaks of red, then told me to repeat after her. It wasn't very heavy, no more than a pound. It was the size of a baseball, so it felt too light for its size. Suma placed a bowl on the floor and then used magic to fill it with water. Then she took her place opposite to me, about 3 feet away on a small perch. She began to speak, and I repeated after her, "Agno de se pisa." "Agno de se pisa," I said. Nothing happened, and Suma looked disappointed. I glanced at the stone, expecting some kind of reaction, but none occurred. "What's I supposed to do?" I asked. "Well, if you had produced the magic yourself, the blue would have turned green, and if you controlled the magic in the area, the red would have gone black. But neither happened," she said. She shook her head and waddled back and forth on her perch for a moment before sharply saying, "Oh, of course, you said it in my language and not your own. Try it in your native tongue." Okay, I said. "But what does it all that mean?" "It's a command of sorts. You need to channel the magical energy to accomplish your task, then describe what needs to happen. For turning water into steam, you would say boil the water," she exclaimed. "Okay, I think I understand," I said, my voice barely hiding my confusion. Suma gave me the go-ahead, and I tried to imagine what she told me. Basically, I need to channel this magical energy stuff, then use it to accomplish a task. To do it, I need to describe the task. I wondered to myself if that was all. How did this magical energy know what to do? I figured it had to be of some kind of mental image that the energy used as some kind of building block. If that was the case, then magic could be kind of extension of one's thoughts. I had a theory, and I was ready to test it. I focused on the feeling of when I summoned destiny. There was a kind of gentle, yet fierce power lurking nearby whenever I did. Like a monster hidden just under the surface of a still lake. I needed to make the monster come out of hiding, so I focused on looking for that feeling. In my mind, I imagined standing on the surface of a pool, reaching a hand into it. I felt that same power begin to flow. Soon, it was as strong as when I summoned destiny. But I didn't stop there. I imagined reaching in further, all the way to my elbow, and that feeling became much more tangible. "Jake!" Suma shouted urgently. I opened my eyes and saw both nymphs looking concerned, and then I looked around the room and understood why. Planks and stones that had been stacked on shelves were on the ground, like a windstorm had blown through in an instant and gone just as fast. I looked down at the stone. The blue had turned green, and the red was black. End of chapter. Humans Don't Make Good Familiars, Chapter 12. "Jake!" Suma shouted urgently. I opened my eyes and saw both nymphs looking concerned. Then I looked around the room and understood why. Planks and stones that had been stacked on shelves were on the ground, like a windstorm had blown through in an instant and gone just as fast. I looked down at the stone. The blue had turned green, and the red was black. What happened? I wondered as I looked around at the state of the room. "When you started using magic, at first the stone turned green, and we were satisfied. But quickly afterwards the red changed to black in an instant, which is highly unusual in and of itself. But before we could get your attention, the whole room was engulfed in a swirling mass of magical energy. We were blown around in the room, and only after managing to regain control were we able to snap you out of it," Suma explained. I looked around the room again, taking in all of the chaos. It wasn't too bad to me, but for a small creature like the nymphs, it was probably like a hurricane. "No, I'm sorry," I said. I didn't mean to." And just then I noticed that the older nymph was shaking and nuzzling his left wing. It was broken. I rushed over to him. No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to," I yelled, but I was cut off by Suma. "Jake, don't worry about it. Our magic can heal him. Just let me handle it." Her voice wasn't angry, but calm and even. She wasn't trying to chastise me, but reassure me that nothing had been done that couldn't be fixed. She stood over the larger nymph, and the magic circle formed around the two of them. The light began emitting from the nymph's injured wing, like glitter moving in a wave across the surface. Then the wing slowly pulled itself back into a correct alignment. Soon the circle faded, and he moved it around to make sure that it was okay.
Are you okay?
I'm perfectly fine, thank you, little one, the nymph said and pressed his wings back to his body. He turned to me. You are an oddity I have never come across before in my life. Such power, and in a summon no less. Tell me, are there more like you? More humans? Yes, but I'm the only human in history to use magic, as far as I know anyway, I told him. A shame, he replied. I would have liked to have a familiar like you myself, he said.
Jake isn't just a familiar. He's a friend. He even named me,
Suma interjected. A name? The nymph said aghast.
Yes, I know, known as Suma,
she told him. A familiar naming its master. That's, unheard of, he replied.
I'm not his master. We're allies, partners, she told him. Besides, it's not like I could if I wanted to. His force of will and life force density are far beyond my abilities to control.
That piqued my interest. Life force densities? I asked.
Do you remember when I tried taking your life force into myself and got injured?
Suma said, but was interrupted by the older nymph. You were injured in an attempt to take some life force. I taught you better than that. Never try taking on a new familiar's life force all at once. With a start with 30% or less, he chided.
I started with 10%, and it still knocked me on my tail feathers,
Suma corrected him. He looked shocked, then confused. 10%? And you were still injured, he asked. How remarkable, he added after a brief silence.
Jake has the densest life force that I have ever encountered, Suma said.
It can't be that much, I denied.
Jake, I can handle a life force of several Borak beasts at the same time. I couldn't even handle 1/10 of yours. There are high mages and court mages that train their whole lives to achieve what you were born with. And you are an untrained amateur who only just learned that he even had magic,
Suma explained. I was honestly bewildered. I'd never considered the possibility that I had magic, let alone that I was good at it anyway. As those thoughts marinated inside my head, Suma and the other nymph said their goodbyes, and she apologized for wrecking the room. I offered to help clean, but he said that the school used magic to clean itself, and that he could perform the spell alone. I was exhausted, and Suma saw it, so she sent me home. I closed my eyes in her world and opened them on my couch, where she had taken me from this morning. My feet still ached, and now I was too full of questions to sleep. At least, that's what I thought. But I was snoring within 5 minutes of my head hitting the pillow. End of chapter.